Hello everybody, here we are today and we're going to be talking about the Minnesota Wild, their recent losing streak, what this season means or what it probably is going to mean for them, and then talking about my plans for the channel for the next week and a half. Now before we start, please make sure to subscribe if you're new to me or hockey, whatever the case may be. That being said, let's get on into it. So the Wild are not having a good start to the season after having some pretty good regular seasons in recent memory. Right now they are 5-10-4 through their first 19 games played, and are just above the Chicago Blackhawks in the Central Division, so they're 7th in their division. Playoffs aren't looking so likely about a quarter of the way through the year, and they're on a 7-game losing streak. So what exactly has gone wrong in these 7 games? Well, for starters, they're just not really scoring a lot of goals. Over this 7-game skid, they have averaged 1.86 goals per game, and even some games against the Dallas Stars, for example, where they scored 3 goals. That's a good thing, right? It is, but at the same time, they allowed 8. Now, are some of those empty netters? I don't know. I didn't go back and look. However, either way, you're probably not going to be in a situation where you're winning a lot of games when you're allowing 8 goals. You know, this is going to be one of those deals where maybe you win it occasionally if you're like the Los Angeles Kings against the Seattle Kraken. I think they beat them last year 9-8. But overall, it's just not sustainable. And on top of that, things are really bad on the PK right now. So discipline has been an issue that I've talked about before here on this channel, and the Wild over their past 7 games have been on the penalty kill a lot. In fact, they have allowed the 11th most penalty kill goals in the run that they've been on, or I guess the skid that they've been on, dating back to, I believe, of November 9th. The only team that has more penalty kill goals allowed is the New York Islanders, and they played 2 more games. On top of that, you're looking at this and realizing that they have averaged the most penalty kill minutes, or most time spent on the penalty kill over that run in the entire league. So 31 teams can say that they have not been at a man disadvantage as much as Minnesota has. They have had 27 penalties called against them during this stretch of just 7 games. 3 of those games have seen them get called for penalties 5 times or more, 8 times against Dallas, which I know is a heated game where they're in their division. They've met them in the playoffs and they just don't really like them for good reasons. Colorado, where they allowed 6 penalties to be called against them, and it's just not really an ideal situation where they are getting called for so many penalties against really good teams, and that's kind of what concerns me. You can say, oh, we can turn things around, but at the same time, if you are consistently getting called for penalties against good teams, what do you think is going to happen? You're probably going to lose, and they are just making the workload for their goalies harder too. Philip Gustafson, over the 7-game stretch, has played 4 of these games in that span, dating back again to November 9th, has averaged the 3rd most average minutes on the PK for goalies in the entire league. There's only been 2 goalies. Now, mind you, maybe they just played 1 game. I'm not really sure. I think Vasilevsky may have been one of those. But still, they're putting a lot of wear and tear on their goalies and spending precious time in games where they have to be dealing with guys in the box, and they're not really getting a chance to maybe get extra attackers of their own. And yeah, there's been some things that are painful here. Obviously, 4 of these losses have been by 1 goal, and I'm not really a fool. I look at the schedule and I realize that 5 of the 7 teams that they've lost to in their past 7 games have been teams that are currently in playoff positioning. You have games against the Rangers, games against the Avs, games against the Stars. I get it. Those are very difficult games, but at the same time, looking at this Minnesota side that has not got out to a great start, you have teams like Dallas and Colorado that are above you right now, probably will finish above you by the end of the regular season, and then you've got other teams that are surging right now. Nashville Predators, Winnipeg Jets, the St. Louis Blues are performing better than a lot of people expected to start off the year. The Arizona Coyotes are having a better start to the season than was expected of them. I know obviously they've got growing expectations every year, but the point remains that this division is not really giving them any benefit of the doubt, and while they can say, oh, this schedule is very hard, the point remains that they are 7th in the division, and they are looking up at a lot of teams that are currently either in playoff spots or above them for playoff positioning. Now, the good news is, despite the fact that they have 14 points in 19 games played, they have some really big games coming up against the Nashville Predators and the St. Louis Blues. 2 teams you really would like to see them beat to gain some momentum and get things back on track. And another great thing, too, is they have some games, I don't want to say against pretenders, but more teams that are just down on their luck at the moment, too. So anytime you have 2 teams that are down on their luck, you would kind of like to be able to get some luck on your side and then throw some more bad luck onto their side. So maybe if Minnesota can get a bit of a run going here and again beat teams like Nashville and St. Louis, they're going to be in a better spot. The downside is, though, they just have 14 points in 19 games played, meaning they have 63 games remaining, 126 points possible. You would probably like to get to 100 points on the year to feel safe in terms of playoff positioning or being able to make it as a wild card team, because when you get that 95 range, that's when you start to worry a little bit, meaning they need 86 out of their remaining 126 possible points available. Basically meaning that if they won 43 of the next 63 games, they lock it up. So Minnesota needs to start winning now, and they need to start either winning in regulation or at least getting it to overtime, so if they lose, they get points from the shootout or just OT in general. So things are pretty dire. And the reality is, things are looking pretty grim. MoneyPuck.com has them at 24.5% odds of making the playoffs. That is not great for a team that has been regularly a postseason club. And I know, again, a lot of people talk about the money and the issues where they aren't dealing with, or the issues that they are dealing with, I should say, with dead cap. I totally get that, but at the same time, too, this is a problem for the upcoming season as well. So if things look bad this year, they're going to look bad next year. The good news is, even though it seems very frustrating, they can stop taking so many penalties. I know things probably get heated with Dallas and they just don't like the Stars. I get that. And the bad news is, with the star that they've had, I really am not sure that they're going to be able to make it to the playoffs, because again, you're probably looking at two of these three seeds in the division being locked up, and with having some other teams that have started out the gate really well this year, that means you're probably looking at best a 3 seed or competing for the wild card. So Minnesota's got their hands full right now, but if they can just find a way to get some more timely goals and then not do as many silly things and have their goalies probably be exhausted from being on the PK so much, things are going to look up for them. Am I jumping ship on their season? Unfortunately, probably, but I'm not going to commit all the way so somebody can clip this down the road and say, oh, look how silly Hockey Brigade looked. But anyway, we're jumping off that ship right now and talking about the plans for the channel for the next week, week and a half. So right now I am pretty busy. I have something coming up this week that I have to do, which isn't like a big deal. It's not like anything that has to do with my health or whatever. Just kind of got to do stuff to get ready for that. So really busy with that. And then work finally has overtime picking up. So I'm going to be working 10-hour days at least. And then I think I finally convinced them to start letting us work 11-hour days. It's not mandatory overtime. It's voluntary overtime. So if anybody doesn't want to work it, they don't have to. But I just kind of said, hey, you know, I would really like to get that extra hour of overtime if we can, especially because there hasn't been a crazy amount of OT lately. So going to be really busy the next week. The goal is to put out 2 more videos by the end of this week and then try to get back and really start to get some momentum rolling towards the end of the year. Even if it's 4 videos a week, I want to try to do 5 ideally per week, so we will see with it. And then in a perfect world, we're going to try to at least do 3 of the Champions Cup videos, going back and looking at old Stanley Cup champions and then talking about those seasons. So anyway, this kind of wraps up the video talking about Minnesota's stint or start to the year, and then just plans for the channel going forward for the next week and a half. So anyway, please make sure to like this if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new. Everybody stay safe. Have a great night. And you go love hockey, all right. Goodbye, Brigadiers and Brigadettes. This is your captain signing off. Have a great night.